Welcome back to part two of this trying to fix video that involves the power supply. I think I've got the lighting a little bit better. We'll see if I need more, and the framing a little bit better. So my apologies for the first video. I'm really just getting going on this. Well, that really doesn't show much there. The part has arrived with one little caveat, but let's pull the unit out of the box I stored it in while I was waiting. Actually, two caveats. One, I moved recently and I forgot to change my address on Amazon, so I had to go back to my old place to pick it up. So here is the unit that we were having a problem with. Let me see if I got it reasonably well framed. And here's the capacitor that I removed. And I don't know how well that's going to show up. I don't want too much glare on it. But here is the replacement I ordered. And if you look at it, okay, that looks just about the right size box, doesn't it? I got fooled. I've already opened the box, but I will open it and show you. There's a capacitor. There is indeed a capacitor. It matches the dimensions until you get to that point. Just for comparison, old versus new. I don't think this is going to be a really big issue though, because I imagine, and here's where we find out, I'm going to stick it in here. Try and squeeze it under the bracket. And if I push down the bracket, this should be, I imagine, a pretty tight fit. Ooh. I hadn't realized the bracket was kind of wedged up against. Let's get the new one out of there for a second. Let's make sure we got the bracket. Actually, I thought I had made it crooked, but apparently that's how it was originally installed. Let's get this thing out of there. The leads want to connect. Okay. I need to line up the end of the bracket with the hole. And I went too far. But ultimately what's happening is it's bumping up against this side here. I have put on a new switch. I will show you in a moment if I haven't already. Oh, okay, it's that simple. I need to actually just kind of bend it, like pull it with my finger, pull it that way, and it moves a lot easier. So if you have one of these and you're following me, which I don't really recommend, I'm not an expert in power supply repair. I am a trained engineer, but engineering is a very wide discipline. It was electrical engineering, but it was, to be fair, digital electronic engineering. So let's just see if that kind of fits in there. Yeah, and I think if I push this down, and what I'm going to do is put a nut and a bolt through there, and that'll hold the capacitor in place, and that should pretty much take care of that. So let me also show you the switch real quick. I had to go to a surplus store, and hopefully I've got that framed in the right direction this time. Let's see. Nope, I got it backwards. The writing goes that way. Yeah, now that'll make more sense. So unfortunately this is a three-way switch. It's got 2 clicks, but it's ultimately, if I put it in the on position, that'll take care of turning it on. This is not a full-blown restoration. This is just a refurbishment. I'm just trying to get it working again. And I did find a switch that fit perfectly in the hole, but it has this writing on it. The original was also white, not black. I looked around. It turned into a situation where if I ordered it on Amazon and I wasn't really careful, I could end up with a sizing issue, kind of like the capacitor. But I ultimately ended up, there's a surplus electronics store called All Electronics. It's only a couple of towns over. allelectronics.com. They're not paying me, but they've been really good. to go to. So it's worth telling you about them. And I went down there and they had that particular switch. So all I got to do is I got to get out the multimeter and figure out which two terminals when it's in the top position here. And then I'll connect these two leads. I can connect these two leads to the capacitor, but first I'm going to go find a nut and a bolt that will fit. Okay, I found a small nut and bolt. Hopefully I don't drop it while I'm trying to show it here. Barely much room there, but the threading matches and it's tiny, but it should be just enough to hold that sucker on there. So I'm going to go ahead and try this. If it doesn't go in quickly, then I will pause and come back when it's done. But ultimately, I'm going to have to put the nut in there and reach under with the bolt. You know what, actually it'll probably be easier to first stick the bolt in from underneath and get everything lined up. Okay, that was a bit of a battle. I got an extra screwdriver out because I had to use one to kind of pry it in one direction. Anyway, it's very fiddly. I ended up getting a longer screw just so I could get it in and far enough up that I could then try and get the nut on. But of course, it's all springy and everything, so the longer bolt was basically pulling back that direction. It's in. The capacitor is now hooked up. Now I need to take care of the switch, so I'm going to pause for a moment, go get my voltmeter and test to figure out which one's the right one. Then we can button it all up. Okay, we have a voltmeter. It is currently in what I intend to be the on position. So let's try the first two. I'm not expecting these two to be the ones. I'm actually expecting most switches, it's the opposite set of positions. You got to think of it like you're rotating something. So when you're pushing it up to be in the on position, it's probably going to be the two lower ones. We need a voltmeter to confirm that. And unfortunately right now, I'm not confirming anything. There we go. Wonder if you can see, yeah, you can see the voltmeter. You know what? Let's turn it in the right direction for you. So I have contact on these two. So you can see it drop. This is a cheapy meter, so it's not going to give me a perfect. It's giving me what, 1.5, 1.4 ohms. If I try these two again, nothing. If I try the two on the outside, nothing. So ultimately it's those two in the position that I wanted, so I'm going to go ahead and hook them up. And there we go. We got one on. We got a second one on. And before we get too far into this now, unfortunately the crimp's not looking perfect, but neither is this one really. I think we're going to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead, before I button it all up, I'm going to plug it in, back behind the camera, turn it off. We're plugged in, no magic smoke yet. Put it in the middle position, no magic smoke. Now the real test. I hear humming, but I don't see smoke. That's a good sign. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. Interesting. I would raise it up and see if you could hear the actual buzzing, but I'm afraid to actually pick the thing up and potentially shock myself. I probably wouldn't, but I just don't want to take chances. So now we need to unplug it and not unplug the lights. And we need to get the case, which I believe goes like this. I'm guessing it'll be somewhat obvious. That's something I should have paid attention to when I took it apart. Interesting. There's guides on it. Okay. Ah. So there's these little, I don't know how well that's going to come out right here. There's a little tab there, and the same thing on the other end. Hopefully I'm getting that in shot. And same thing on the other side, which basically I think is there so that those want to go on the inside of the end pieces. And by doing that, you ensure that the end pieces can't push in. So that's good. Now we'll turn it on its side and see, yep, the holes seem to line up, so I think I got it right that time. Now let's dig into our box of parts. And of course, it would be Phillips head. You know what though? The second screwdriver I went to go get was Phillips head, so let's see if this will work. Yep, this will work. For anybody wondering why I'm screwing it in this weird fashion, it's because my right hand is a little bit messed up. Like a tendonitis problem that I've had for a few months. And I can still operate most things, but well, I'm just going to go ahead and finish buttoning this up, and then we'll have a little demonstration. Alright, well, let's see how this is going to work out. I now have the actual unit hooked up, and this little bit that you can see here is where the color actually comes out, and I put it on top of a white box, so hopefully it'll reflect a little better. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn out the lights. Actually, I've turned off some of my auxiliary lights, and I'm going to turn off the main lights, and then I'm going to go flip this sucker on, and we're going to see how well it works. Those lights are off. Oops, forgot about this light. Now there's barely the light just coming through the door, and that turns that on. And I don't know if you can see what I can see. I'm hoping it's going to come out, but there's a bit of a purplish color, so I'm guessing the magenta is up. And it really is buzzing quite a bit. Let me try and turn down the magenta. We're going to try and get it back to white. Yeah, I guess I left it when I tested it before. Yep, I can see the cyan's up a little. No, maybe not. Maybe it was the yellow. So in theory, oh, no, that's not at 0. Let's get them all to 0. Okay. That's the yellow at 0. Here's the magenta going down. Leaves us with just cyan, which makes sense. I'm going to turn the cyan down. And now what we should have is basically pure white light, or whatever's coming out of the light bulb, which is why you kind of want to buy a well-balanced bulb for these units. I don't want to run it for too long, but hopefully you get the idea. I'm going to try and let's do CyMac, cyan, yellow, magenta, right? So cyan will turn up. We just turned it down, but now we're turning it back up just because we were trying to get it to 0. Yellow. That's all the yellow. The cyan and yellow gives us a nice greenish color. Now if I turn up the magenta, we end up with ultimately another white or kind of a grayish color. I'm going to turn down the yellow, and that'll give us that purplish color, which I think is supposed to be blue. But remember, this is photography, and we're shining this ultimately through a negative. So there's something about the color balancing I don't know for sure, but I know that when you look at a color negative film, it actually has a mask on it, which is kind of an orangish brownish color, so this may be compensating for that. But that's basically it. I was trying to fix the power supply. You might be able to hear it now that it's under load. It's buzzing a bit louder. But I do kind of remember hearing that buzz in the past. All in all, though, it's buttoned up, it's back together, it's functional, it's powering the unit that it was intended to power. It's actually not designed for this particular unit because the voltages are different, but I got it back up and running. That's the bottom line. So as far as a trying to fix video, this seems to have succeeded. So if you like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't like it, feel free to hit the dislike button. I want honest reviews on this, and the more people that participate, the more YouTube pays attention to what's going on. I get information, I figure out what videos you guys want to see, this being my first trying to fix video beyond the original DIY videos. So I want to do more of these, but I just don't know if you guys like them. Go ahead and like, subscribe if you think you might like some of the other content in my channel. I do gardening videos. I'm going to be doing more electronic type videos. I've done the DIY-ery stuff, including one in the backyard with me trying to straighten up a tree and getting hit by a come-along. If you enjoy that kind of stuff, go ahead and watch that one. Just look for DIY-ery straightening a tree. There was also the one where I spent an entire week trying to chip all of the old grout out of a tile floor so I could regrout it. So if you enjoy watching long-form type stuff and you don't mind listening to a long-winded person like me, go ahead and hit that like button. All right? Thanks for watching.